All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up. I hope everybody's doing well today. Stream is a little bit later than normal. I apologize for that. I made a video earlier and it it was a long video, so it took a lot longer to edit and get everything together. So I apologize for being about an hour late than I normally would be for my streams. And we have a $10 super chat from Josh. He says, I don't usually call out Sony for lying, but saying they don't see Switch 2 as competition and then releasing a Japanese-only console in a Japanese state of play reeks of fear. Reeks of fear they will never succeed there. Yeah, I always found it a little bit strange that Shuhei Yoshida said that they don't consider Nintendo competition. Like I don't necessarily know it's that he's lying when he says that, as much as it's just I think Sony's beginning to realize that Nintendo is currently the only one that is, I would say, has effectively beaten them in at least one area. I mean, it depends on who you ask. Some people believe that Nintendo has beaten Sony in multiple areas, but at least in one area that would probably matter to Sony eventually, right, is they've completely taken over Japan, your home territory. And I feel like if you're Sony, people always found it kind of strange that Sony seemingly just kind of, I don't say they abandoned Japan, but they just kind of, there was no emphasis on it, no prioritization. And so I think what's happening now is Sony's realizing that you kind of, you completely gave up your home territory to Nintendo. And, when you see Nintendo put a Japanese Switch 2 out, or like a region lock Switch 2 at a cheaper price point, and then Sony looks at it and they're like, maybe we should do that. I mean, that state of play was bizarre, in my opinion. It was bizarre just because it feels like, well, I mean, this is kind of like out of nowhere, but it, if you go back and you watch that state of play, it's 100% like we're trying to relaunch the PS5 in Japan. We were trying to remind Japanese consumers of the PlayStation brand. So yeah, I would tend to agree with you here, Josh. I think Sony, they may not look at Nintendo as the most direct competition and like the biggest threat to their brand, but there's no doubt that Nintendo in some areas has very much like outdone Sony, in a few areas. And so I guess maybe it's just more of Sony. Like, maybe what Shuhei said, maybe it's not a lie as much as it's just when he was in charge, that was true. Maybe things have changed now that Xbox is kind of, chilling out now. Now Sony's kind of like turning their gaze to Nintendo. I'm just trying to think of all the different reasons why Sony would make this sudden decision to get much more serious in Japan. But Josh, I do appreciate the super chat, buddy. We also have Wabu Dude. He says it's kind of weird that the Horizon mobile MMO wasn't announced during the Japanese state of play. Yeah, we have to have some discussions today, boys. We certainly do. It's interesting because I almost wish I would have streamed yesterday as well. I wasn't able to, but I didn't expect, like, I thought for sure today's stream was going to be all about the Steam Machine announcement. So it makes me wish I would have done that stream yesterday, because today we have a bunch of different PlayStation stuff. And geez, man, when it comes to the stuff we're going to cover for PlayStation, I am confused. I'm not I'm trying to understand Sony. I'm trying to understand like the reasoning, the logic, I guess you could say, behind their decision making. Something something's not sitting right with me. And I'm not gonna like spaz out because I do think there's a big caveat here. I think people are not realizing that the Game Awards are a month from now, and in past years, Sony has treated the Game Awards like a showcase. The Game Awards is the most viewed gaming event every year, so Sony goes in, they go big at the Game Awards. I'm just putting this out here because all of these things that they're announcing, they could have saved for the Game Awards, and they're like, we're just going to do it now in November. I'm like, that's interesting. I think it's what I'm trying to say is I think it's done strategically. Um, I think Sony knows there's going to be a certain level of negativity, and we'll get into it. I mean, there's so much to cover, you know? There's really so much to cover. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to talk about the Steam Machine too. I'm not sure where to start. I feel like I want to start with this Horizon MMORPG. RPG, I don't know why I said it like that, but I think that's where I want to start because, well, I mean, it's the most. It's it kind of came out of nowhere, and I don't know if you guys have seen this game, but man, it looks pretty good. Like if I was Guerrilla Games, I would be a little bit like did they make like a cooler Horizon game than we did? I'm not like I don't want to jump to conclusions. Yeah, it looks crazy good. Like I'm not gonna lie, and I'm shocked because it's like a mobile PC game. Now, if I understand, so this game is called Horizon uh, Steel Frontiers. Is that what it's called? I think. Make sure that's the right name. Yeah, Horizon Steel Frontiers is a full-fledged MMORPG for PC and mobile. It's been developed by NC Soft, and it's going to release. So I have to put this out here because this is also important, even though it's going to be on PC. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about this. I don't think it's releasing on Steam or Epic Game Store. I think it's releasing on NC Soft's platform called like Purple. Again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I that's what I'm reading here. So that's also kind of strange. So there's something interesting going on with Sony right now because you're saying it's DOA if that's true. Well, what's interesting to me about this Horizon multiplayer game, this MMORPG, is I watched the trailer. I don't know if you guys have seen this trailer, but I watched it and I even saw a little bit of gameplay. They did put out a little gameplay trailer. And I'm like, no joke, this is exactly what I would have expected Guerrilla Games to make. It looks like a slightly less it keeps the same art style and tone, and it is Horizon. It's unmistakably Horizon. The only major difference is maybe the graphical fidelity has been toned down. It's not like cutting edge, bleeding edge graphics because it's going to be made to run on mobile devices, but it's unmistakably like that's Horizon. Like it looks exactly what I would have thought a Horizon multiplayer game would look like. This game is not releasing on PS5. Now, when I first heard this, I had like a little crash out because I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the type of stuff that made me lose my mind on Xbox years ago when like they were announcing PC only games and games like not coming to Xbox. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, bro? However, what I forgot, and this was confirmed by not only job listings after looking into it again, but Jason Schreier, there is a second multiplayer live service Horizon game in development right now at Guerrilla Games. And Jason Schreier, so first off, Guerrilla put out a post. Let me bring it up. Guerrilla Games put out a post, and they said, "We've loved collaborating with NCSoft and are beyond excited to be able to hunt machines together in the world of Horizon. At Guerrilla, we are still busy working on more ways for you to do just that. More on that to come." And then not too long after that, Jason Schreier came out and he said over on his Blue Sky account, he says, "Just to clear up some confusion I've seen, the newly announced NCSoft Horizon MMO is different from the multiplayer Horizon game that's in development at Guerrilla Games. That one is Guerrilla's next big project." Now this is confusing me a little bit. And I'm going to try my best to wrap my head around this and understand what Sony and Guerrilla Games are trying to achieve here. I have basically two theories, and we'll see if you guys agree with this. And yes, that makes me very concerned, Neo. We're going to talk about that. There was a leak for this Horizon multiplayer game back in 2020. Now, granted, that was 5 years ago. A lot could have changed. This game's been in development since 2018. Sean Mitchell with a super chat says, "Kind of hoping Rockstar does Red Dead Redemption 2 next gen as well as Red Dead Redemption 1. I'm holding out for it as I'd like to play Red Dead Redemption 2 again next gen in my winter rotation of games." Yeah, absolutely, Sean. Apparently Red Dead Redemption 1 for PS5 was rated by the ESRB, and still no word on Red Dead Redemption 2. I really hope they do a combo here, but they're not going to. Sorry, Sean. We're going to have to wait longer. It's modern day Rockstar. We're going to have to wait longer. I don't know. I don't know why it's taking so long, man. But I have to say that I'll give you my two theories, all right? Jason Schreier says the multiplayer game that Guerrilla Games is working on is separate and is their next big project. That's the big one. This is the same game that leaked about 5 years ago. Now, look, I'm not going to bring that stuff up because it's leaked. There's leaked footage. You can look it up. You can look up leaked Horizon multiplayer footage. It's cursed. I'm warning you. It's cursed. But there's leaked concept art as well. Now, most people would not hang on. I'm getting like flack for this on Twitter. Like, most people would not hang on to concept art because it's concept art. It's just a concept. It's a pitch. There is leaked gameplay footage that seems to indicate that what you see in that concept art is what they began developing. And what's concerning about this, and why I need to point out how kind of good the Horizon MMORPG that's not on PS5 looks, is it looks like the opposite of what Guerrilla Games' title. Guerrilla Games looks like they're trying to make a Fortnite / Genshin Impact version of Horizon. And this concerns me deeply. This concerns me deeply because it's going to be a truly wild outcome if the better multiplayer Horizon game was not made by Guerrilla and is not on PS5. And the one that PlayStation players end up rejecting, and I know I'm telegraphing it. I could be totally wrong. I'm just going based off of what we know. If that's the one that Guerrilla's like, "Here you go, guys, we got one for you too. It's even bigger and better." I'm doom and glooming right now. Yeah, but I think I have good reason. I have a good reason to doom and gloom. And I think this is where PlayStation players genuinely have a good reason to be worried. Hold on. Let me replay that, Josh.
How did mobile get that Horizon game and PlayStation players are getting the Gez Fortnite slop? Lol, where am I? How cooked is PlayStation executives?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, man, I don't want to be negative for the sake of negativity. And that's not what this is. This is genuine concern in the sense of, if there's something we've learned in the last year and a half is that Sony is very much, and I mean very much, hit or miss when it comes to their multiplayer live service. Um, Helldivers and Concord proved that. I am going to, yeah, like Josh, I'm going to feel the exact way you're feeling. I swear, dude, I'm telling you, I have this deep concern now. I have this deep concern that at the Game Awards or sometime soon, you're going to see the Guerrilla Games logo pop up and you're going to see a Horizon game that looks like Fortnite. And I'm going to crash out badly because it's like, this cannot be. This is unacceptable, right? Like that Fortnite Horizon game, if that's what it ends up being, that needs to be the one that NCSoft is making. Guerrilla needs to make the real one, the actual good one, the one that actually looks and feels like Horizon, right? And Corey the Legend Landiga comes
I'm
in.
no hero. Never was. Never will be.
Thank you for the 5 membership gifts, Corey. Yeah, if you guys want to support the channel, consider dropping some gifts or super chat or anything. Any way you want to support, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you once again, Corey. Boss is already over here. I'll give Boss a couple treats now in good faith. I'll assume we'll hit that 25 mark at some point. Neo says, I think we should buckle up. I'm sorry. And we have Prince G, a member for 20 months. He says, I'm absolutely getting the Valve Steam Box Series half stack for my living room. Yo, Hanzo honking machine Reza. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next, Prince. I definitely have quite a bit to say about the Steam machine. And I mean, the thing is, like, I wanted to make these two discussions completely separate streams. But it's impossible to do that because I know people are going to come in wanting this or
Steam
wanting
entering
that.
the living room as a competitor. Sony take a hard look at what is going on. Handing Steam exclusives? HL3 better be a Steam exclusive.
Yeah, dude, Moonshot. There's a lot of talk and a lot of smoke, I guess you could say. It's a lot of smoke that seems to be pointing in the direction of Half-Life 3 possibly getting announced next week or something. I'll tell you. I'll tell you, man. We will see. It's one of those things where it's like, now I don't really care about Half-Life, but I know a lot of people do. Is it going to be exclusive, dude? Half-Life 3, launch exclusive for the Steam machine. We'll talk about it. No. By the way, Corey, you're not late, bro, and Irfan, you're not late either. My stream started an hour late, so apologies for that. You guys aren't late. I'm late. We've only been talking for about 20 minutes. And no, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Genshin Impact. To be clear, I don't have a problem with games that have the Fortnite / Genshin Impact art style. It's not the art style itself that I have a problem with. I don't like to judge games just based off of how they look in terms of their art style. That just feels wrong. You should judge a game based off of the gameplay. And I will do that for this Horizon game that Guerrilla Games is making. But something just feels off here, again, like it feels kind of very backwards that, and to be clear too, I want to clear this up. This conversation wouldn't really be that much of a thing right now if this game was announced for PS5. If this NCSoft Horizon MMORPG was launching on PS5, this would not be a conversation. I would just be sitting here letting you know that they have another Horizon multiplayer game, and we'll see that. But what really bothers me as a PlayStation 5 player, I want to emphasize that as somebody who mains PlayStation 5, and that's what I play on, I do have a real problem with the idea that Sony's going to be like, we're not giving you this game. It's like, okay, Sony, what gives? It's like, instead, we are going to give you this game. And This game looks very different from that game. And I look at that game that's not on PS5 and I say that looks more like what we should have gotten though. Like why can't we have that? And I, there's just a weird situation occurring right now with PlayStation. They also revealed a Ratchet and Clank arena multiplayer shooter, not on PS5. It's mobile only. And look, man, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that the PlayStation community has been sitting here clamoring for a Ratchet and Clank arena shooter multiplayer title. I'm not going to tell you that. What I am going to tell you is if that game was announced, well, it was, if it was also announced for PS5, there are absolutely PS5 Ratchet and Clank fans that would have at least, it being free to play, they would have at least downloaded it and gave it a shot. And maybe they would have liked it. And if they don't, they're like, whatever, it's just a free to play game. But I don't know. I mean, dude, they showed the gameplay Capcom were, and I'm like, that looks like Horizon. There's just some weird stuff going on with PlayStation right now. I don't know. So I'm a little bit all over the place. Let me get back to my theory for the Horizon game. My theory is that this NC Soft MMO game could easily run on PlayStation 5 and could easily release on PS5, but Sony is intentionally choosing not to release it on PS5 because they know Guerrilla has another multiplayer game in development in the Horizon universe. And I think there's this kind of fear that if you put two Horizon multiplayer games on PS5, they're going to clash directly with one another. I think the idea is let this MMORPG version of Horizon reach a new audience on mobile and in different territories and on PC. And then Guerrilla Games will provide the expected, console PS5 experience that, that's what their expertise is, that making these games for console. The only real question here is how different these games are going to be. That's the thing that I'm concerned by and I'm concerned with. I'm worried that by the end of all of this, well, I don't know, are they? Yeah, no, they're definitely not, Irfan. I don't think so. I'm not too familiar with them, but I know their expertise is MMORPGs, and I don't think their expertise is console at all. I think Guerrilla's expertise is console. And so I don't think Guerrilla's making an MMORPG for console. I don't think they're doing that. I think they're making a more traditional multiplayer experience, a more co-op. Titus, yeah, there you go. Occam's razor. That's probably it, right? I didn't even think about that side of it, All I know is that the game looks kind of cool, man. Like if this game was announced for console, I would 100% play it. I'm like, that looks sick. That looks like the Horizon Monster Hunter I expected. And I just didn't think that we were going to see a situation like this where it's like, yeah, there's the Horizon Monster Hunter that's not on PlayStation. And it's like, well, then what is going to be on PlayStation? And Gorilla's over there like, you got like Herman Hulse back there, like Horizon Fortnite. It's going to be the next big thing, MBG. Here at PlayStation, we've seen how many people play Fortnite on their PS5 consoles. So we decided the best thing to do would be to take the Horizon franchise and make it just like Fortnite. It's a win-win situation. God, why does that feel like that's actually what's going on with Herman behind the scenes, bro? Oh, why not just play Monster Hunter then? I did play Monster Hunter World. I was too intimidated by Wilds. I'm not going to lie. I played the beta and I'm like, oh man, this is stressing me out. I don't know. Tongue hair saying, I've watched you for years. It's completely legal. Wait, what is? Tongue hair, I'm confused. Did I say something was illegal? I'm very confused right now. Hating on Fortnite is crazy. No, I'm not hating on Fortnite. I don't have a problem with Fortnite. Um, I'm pretty much indifferent to it. I just, I'm very. I feel like I know how this is gonna go. I feel like by the time the situation is clear, and by that I mean when the next Horizon multiplayer game's revealed, I have a strong feeling that I'm gonna look at the NC Soft version and be like, that actually looks kind of cool, and I would like to play that, but I can't. I mean, I guess I technically could, but I would like to play it on my PS5 and I can't. And then the Horizon multiplayer that Gorilla puts out, I'm gonna be like, this. I don't like this, and I'm not sure why you guys made this like this. You know, I'm. I feel somewhat confident. I'm not saying it's for sure, but I feel somewhat confident that that's going to be the outcome here. And the fact that this game leaked, you know, the fact that this game has leaked and we've seen it. I'm not saying it could have been completely overhauled. It's clearly very early in development in the conceptual stage. So it might look nothing like that. But I'm just, I don't know, man. Nicodemus, you're saying I'm spot on. We can all see it. Why can't Sony see it? Well, here's the thing here's the most insane thing to me about Guerrilla Games' Horizon multiplayer title that they haven't revealed yet. This game has been in development since 2018, man. Now, that's what tells me the game got rebooted. There's no way this game was in development that long without being rebooted, possibly multiple times. There's just no way. It wouldn't take them this long to make a Horizon multiplayer. It wouldn't take anybody this long to make a Horizon multiplayer, especially when all the assets are already there, you know? It tells me that they really are trying, like they've spent a lot of time really trying to figure it out. That's my guess. It's crazy that it hasn't been canceled. And I'm only saying that because of how long it's been in development. Maybe that's why, I don't know. Maybe that's why Sony won't cancel it because they're like, dude, Horizon's one of our biggest franchises. This game is, we may as well stick with it. I don't know. Gorilla wants to do it. Irfan, let me see. You're saying read my last. Hold on. Saying this project is targeting the Korean, Chinese, and Japanese gamers who are more of mobile gamers than consoles. Sony's move makes sense. Well, yeah, I mean, that is the logic behind it. There is sense to be made here out of like, hey, let's get this gaming company that are experts at making mobile-based MMORPGs and give them the Horizon franchise and let them go to work so we can court this whole new audience. That absolutely makes sense. I'm just not sure it makes sense not to release it on your console too. That, like, I'm worried about that. I really am because it's like there's this Guerrilla Games multiplayer title is the one that you're going to have to pay for. Now, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure this Horizon MMO is going to be free to play, right? If it's an MMO going for a different art style, maybe the only solution to get it to run better, lower the graphics, will be better for multiple gamers on screen at one time. No, I do. I know how much money. Like, I don't fault Sony for wanting to get a piece of that mobile game pie. Mobile gaming is very dominant. Sony should they should be doing stuff in the mobile space, and I'm not condemning them for doing it. You know, the Ratchet and Clank situation. You should make a game like that for mobile. Why not? And you know, it's a separate company and a separate developer you're working with and partner with. There's nothing wrong with this. I just get mixed feelings when it's like they show me this stuff and then they're like, the place where all of this comes from, the PlayStation console, not involved. And I just I question that, where I'm like, but why? Like, it, all I can think with the Ratchet and Clank game, and I don't even think it looks that good. I don't think this Ratchet and Clank mobile game looks that good. It looks okay. Like, it looks like something maybe I would try out. I mean, I like Ratchet and Clank. I've always liked Ratchet and Clank. But it's like, the only thing I can figure is this. They hired this mobile development team to make this Ratchet and Clank game. Insomniac clearly has nothing to do with it, as far as I'm aware. You know, I think their name is just on it, to, you know, because it's recognizable, but I don't think they had anything to do with the development of it. And I think that it may be a situation where they would put it on console, but Insomniac literally doesn't have the bandwidth. Like, Insomniac would have to be the one to port it to console, and they're neck deep in developing Wolverine and Venom and all this stuff. And this team that they tasked with making the mobile version has zero experience with console ports. It could be that. But then you also question, what about Nixxes? Couldn't you have them get involved? So I guess what I'm saying is, it feels more like an intentional decision to not release it on console, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I understand you want to penetrate the mobile market. That's fine. I don't understand why you don't give your... Like, here's the thing that really doesn't make sense to me. This game may completely fail on mobile. You know? This game may have zero chance on mobile. Because, I mean, the thing about the mobile market is, sure, there's so much money flowing, but there's so many games that just... you know, so much crap released on there, it doesn't go anywhere. And Sony, look, I'm not saying Ratchet and Clank is crap. It's not. I'm not saying even this game is crap. I'm just saying it may go unnoticed. If you put this on PlayStation as a free-to-play, here you go, just a little bonus Ratchet and Clank free-to-play shooter, download it if you want, what's the harm in that? You know what I mean? Like, I think you're giving the game more of a chance of success. Because let's just say, I don't know, let's say there's like 2 million Ratchet and Clank fans. It's probably more than that, but there's 2 million Ratchet and Clank fans who played the last single-player Ratchet and Clank and they loved it on PS5. If even like a quarter of those players decided, if this was on console, like, yeah, I'll install it, try it out, that's a lot of players. And some of those players might even be willing to pay for some of the microtransactions, because that's the whole thing about mobile, right? It cheapens the brand. I mean, perhaps. I mean, I get that. Yeah, if it's not like an Insomniac developed Ratchet and Clank experience, maybe there's like this idea like it doesn't belong on console. Then I do get that mentality, but it feels... more than anything, it feels like it's being set up to fail. That's what it feels like. I feel as though that these experiences that Sony is putting some amount of money into, they want them to succeed. You know, they want them to find a player base. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like Sony's a little bit in La La Land sometimes with their decision making, where I'm like, I don't agree with this. I think it's a weird... saying, bro, the delusion is insane with some people. Well, there's 100% PlayStation fans that believe that PlayStation can do no wrong, that Sony can do no wrong. I'm not one of those fans. I think there are people who hate PlayStation that make it seem like everything they do, there's like they're walking on a fucking landmine and constantly making brain dead decisions. I'm not one of those people either. I think that I think it's a completely natural thing that you see a badass looking Horizon MMO game announced, and you're a PlayStation 5 player who played Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, and then you find out, like, you can't play this, not on PS5. It's a completely, and to insinuate anything else is gaslighting. It's completely natural to be like, wait, I can't play that game, you know? Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't an explanation, and that's where I think it's important. It is important for PlayStation players who are very upset by this to take a step back, just so you understand that there is a multiplayer PS5 Horizon game coming. I'm not here to tell you. Don't you guys have phones? I'm not here to tell you it's going to be good. I'm not here to tell you you should be excited for it. I'm just here to tell you it's a thing that's coming. And I do believe that's why this game is not on PS5. I think it would be too much of a conflict. I think it would be very problematic for Guerrilla Games if this Horizon MMORPG dropped on console early next year and it's like, this is great and it's a success. And then they're like, well, we got another one over here. And it was like, we don't care about that. We already got ours. I almost get here's my other theory. My other theory is that Sony is looking at this as like, we'll let Guerrilla have the entire PlayStation player base. We're going to let Guerrilla tap into that player base. And if it fails, and let's just say this Horizon game from Guerrilla is a mega flop, like a Concord level flop. I don't think it would be that bad. Certainly not. But, just something that it's like it's here and then it's gone. And it just doesn't work. Then I think at that point, it's like, okay, well, then let's just port this NC Soft game. It's kind of like a backup, a type of safety net where it's like, if that's all we can offer, then fine. A free-to-play MMORPG for Horizon. But I don't think Sony would be willing to do that until they see what happens with this Guerrilla Games developed Horizon multiplayer experience. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. I have kind of mixed feelings on it because I do think this Horizon MMORPG looks pretty cool. I think it does a good job of kind of staying true to the core of what the Horizon games are. What's this, Irfan? Huh. Yo, really quick. This was posted by Jeff Keighley. He says, abruptly at the last minute, Ubisoft has halted trading of its shares and postponed its earnings call today. This may suggest that material news about the company and its future trajectory is imminent. That sounds to me like they got purchased. That's what that sounds like to me. That usually doesn't happen unless, as far as I'm aware, that stuff like that usually only happens when there's some kind of massive deal. Tencent already owns. Oh, wait, yeah, you're right. I forgot about. Well, no, hold on. Tencent owns like a separate, like a spin-off company, right? I don't think they actually own Ubisoft. I don't know. The whole Ubisoft situation has been very weird. Very, very weird. The one No Reeler says it used to be it would come out on mobile later as a watered down version of what was on console first. This sounds like they're doing it but backwards. Yeah, it could be that. That's kind of what I'm really curious to see. No Reeler. I'm really curious to see if this Horizon multiplayer game that Guerrilla Games is making is like essentially the same game but at a much higher quality for console. It has like that much more premium feel. I don't think it can fundamentally be the same game though. Like my guess is that it's gonna be like a $40 title, and it'll be less. Like I don't know if it can be an MMORPG. I don't know if that would make sense for Gorilla because they don't like. I mean, dude, Gorilla doesn't know how to do an MMORPG. Like that's not their area of expertise. They do have experience in multiplayer. Jeez, because of Killzone, but B Flesher, you're saying I just watched the Horizon trailer. That gameplay looks incredible, much better than other Horizon melee combat, and they let you have attractive characters. Bring it to PS5. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I'm not trying to be that person, and I wasn't trying to call attention to this, but I'm like, the character that they showed off in that trailer. It's like I don't think anybody's gonna be walking away being like, they put an ugly, hideous beast, or some shit as the, you know what I mean? It's, I don't know. I, oh God. I didn't want to go here, but guys, like I'm going to show you, an image. I have to find it. I wasn't planning on doing this, but screw it. Let me see if it'll let me bring it up. Okay, well, of course it didn't save. It did. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. This is an image from the Horizon NC Soft game. Okay. This is the Horizon NC Soft game. This is the one that was just announced. Looks pretty good. The next image I'm going to show you is a leaked image from Guerrilla Games' Horizon multiplayer. Now, I want to emphasize something. It's an early prototype leak. It came out in 2020. I would like to assume this has been scrapped. But I'm going to show you, okay? So this is the NC Soft game. This, you guys are not ready. This is the Guerrilla Games. So, like when people who are like getting on my case, being like, why are you assuming the worst, bro? Like, this is why. This is why. Okay? Like, again, this could, listen, no. Capcom, like, Guerrilla, it's like, if this is the game you want to make, go for it. I don't want to hear nothing when it dies instantaneously. Okay? I don't want to hear nothing when people are like, bro, I want to play that. I'm going to go play the... It's a stretch, though. Dude, there's no way. There's no way, bro. Holy shit. Okay. Well, listen, I'm just saying, like, if you look at these two images next to each other, the developer's just having fun. I mean, you would hope so. But I'm just, look, I'm just saying, there's many images like that from this leaked Guerrilla Games Horizon. And I just, I'm like, okay. But like, then you're showing me this. Oh shit. Okay, that's a bit much. Then you're showing me this for Horizon and telling me I can't have it. And I'm like, How can I not be concerned? How could I not be concerned? No, dude, I understand. I understand that. Listen, if you were to ask me, MBG, do you think that's what the game is going to look like? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that is a leaked 2020 build that it, like, to me, if you look at the background, they're just using the Horizon Forbidden West environment, you know? To me, it's clear that, like, that's early ass conceptual stuff. I'm not trying to make it sound like what you're looking at, that's what you're going to get. I'm just saying that there's a certain direction that it seems to me that Guerrilla wanted to go in and wants to go in. And I don't know why so many people are pretending like Concord didn't happen. That's all I'm saying, man. Concord happened. There's a reason it happened. And this game was greenlit well before Concord was even a thing for Sony. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's been in development since before Concord even existed. It still hasn't been revealed. There had to have been multiple reboots. My hope is that ultimately, at the end of the day, what we get with this Guerrilla Games Horizon title is something much further away from those leaks and much closer to, like, Forbidden West. That's all I'm trying to say here, man. You know? I'm not saying the characters need to be beautiful. I'm not saying they need to be sexy. I'm just saying it's gotta, like, I don't want there to be a Horizon MMORPG that's not available on console that feels more like an actual Horizon game than the Horizon multiplayer we end up getting on console. That's all I'm saying, dude. We also have Henry 3K with a super chat, and he says, MBG, are you actually disappointed in not having mobile games on the console? What about all the other PS mobile games that have released over the years? Well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am concerned. I would be concerned to a certain degree. But I guess I'm just saying it would be easier for me to ignore it if I'm like, it's just a mobile game, I'm not interested, pass. But it's there as an option. Like, it's there. I'm just ultimately somewhat confused here. I don't know. I guess you're right to a degree, Henry. Like, it's true that Sony has had mobile games in the past. I guess it's just we've reached a point where these mobile games, what are we talking about? Like it was like Sackboy Run or some shit. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see why that wouldn't be on console. But then when I see this Ratchet and Clank shooter, I'm like, that's a full-blown arena shooter. And it looks to be honest, mobile games have come a long way where I'm like, that looks pretty decent. Doesn't look great, but I'm like, that doesn't look like a mobile game out of 2008. Like that, they could have announced that and said it's releasing on PS5. I would have got clowned. Absolutely. I'm not denying that. People would have clowned on that. But I know for a fact, like, there would be people who play it. Because it's Ratchet and Clank. So, I don't know. If anything, yeah, maybe the reason why these mobile games are not going to have console versions is because they're being developed with mobile gaming sensibilities. And we know what mobile gaming sensibilities look like. Usually they don't look like console gaming sensibilities. But at the same time, it's kind of like, who was it that said it earlier? Where, like, traditionally you see like a premium AAA live service multiplayer game, and then eventually there's like a mobile version made. And that mobile version, that mobile version is the one that's kind of like, I don't know about that. Like, that's for the mobile crowd. It does seem like we're maybe doing it in reverse. Like, I do wonder, is there like an actual console-based Ratchet and Clank, see here. Uh, wait, what is this? This was posted by Nia on another thread, but I think it warrants its own thread. Horizon Steel Frontier was previously known as Project Skyline. There was talk about introducing AI NPCs back then. Are there any related features that have been implemented? Within the company, we are testing and receiving help from basic NPCs in the process of cooperating and fighting together in combat. In our case, since it's an ARPG, we are receiving help in various aspects, such as determining the optimal number of players for gameplay rather than playing with a large number of users. Internally, we are also using AI assistance for production, from coding to art. It is being substantially implemented in actual development, and the technologies will likely be revealed one by one later. The Horizon development team is also the team that wants to utilize AI the most. We are using it extensively, and you will be able to see the level of AI utilization increase significantly in the games released after Aeon 2. Irfan, could you... Okay, so this is from a Reset Era thread. This was, I think, an interview, and it says Horizon Steel Frontiers uses AI extensively, including for art. We have Yaren saying, can't believe Sony ruined my boy Ratchet and now making a phone/live service game. I just hope it's good. After Concord, I don't know, man. This is a PlayStation. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, oh, geez, that's not good, though. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you right now. People are not going to like this. People are not going to like what I'm about to say. But you're going to look back and you're going to be like, wow, MBG was right. And I want to make it clear that I'm not giving a stance when I say this. I'll give my stance on it. But I'm not giving, this isn't my stance. I'm the messenger. I'm here to let you know that what you just read is going to be common practice amongst all video game studios, all AAA video game studios, and all AAA video game publishers. Okay? So, you know, people are going to get outraged now when they find out that AI is being used extensively to develop this game, even in art. People are going to get outraged now, and they should. It's normal. It's a normal reaction. And you're going to see that reaction today, next week, the week after, the month after. Maybe it'll go on for a year. Maybe 2 years. Maybe 3. Maybe more than 3 years. But eventually, people are going to get tired of getting upset. Because they're going to realize that this is just what it is. So you have two choices. Either continue to just harp about it, which some people will, or accept it, or move on. That you have three choices ultimately. And more people are going to just, you know, realize that this is a losing battle. Now, I will say the caveat here is you will get developers and you will get studios that will tell you, and they'll wear it proudly, and it'll be a selling point. We made this game with zero AI, zero use of AI. There's going to be, like, you know, certain developers and certain studios that use that as a marketing point for their game. And there's going to be that kind of divide. You're tired of the AAA AI slop? We got you. And I'm just saying this because it's happening now. I saw like Arc Raiders was under major fire because I think it was discovered that they use AI voices for voiceovers. And then literally like 2 days later, they broke 700,000 players concurrently on Steam. And I'm like, no one cares, dude. You know? And I'm not saying that's not me saying it doesn't matter. Well, maybe that is me saying it doesn't matter. That's not me saying it's not wrong. Like I'm not talking about it from a moralistic point of view. I'm just identifying that in case you're wondering how much people care about AI voice acting, there's your answer, you know? Oh, okay, thank you. So I didn't know that. You're saying voice actors agreed to the AI voice over on the game. They got paid. Well, that's good. See, that's fair then. That's totally fair. I mean, you're gonna get people though that look it down upon those voice actors, like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like you're hurting the industry by doing that. But it's like, I mean, if they're okay with it, and that's the whole thing, they talk about the SAG-AFTRA and they're trying to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. But it's like, dude, there's as long as there's people that are like, yeah, we'll do it for a one-time paycheck. Sure. We don't care. You know, we'll lend you our voice. I remember this happened with Call of Duty last year where like a bunch of zombies actors got fired because they wouldn't agree to sign over their voices. And then they just literally brought in people that would sign over their voices. And it's like, yeah. Saying you care, MBG, we've heard your thoughts on AI. My thoughts on AI are softening over time because like when I first started to see it, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of spooky and rubbing me the wrong way. And it's still spooky, but I'm realizing that like, oh no, this is the next evolution, whether I like it or not. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel about it. Like, this is the next revolution. And, I could push against that, which is fine, but I'm more along the lines of, well, I don't really want to push against something that's inevitable. You know what I mean? I'd rather save that energy and push against something that might be able to change. When it comes to AI, now there could be like some kind of financial crash, like if the AI bubble bursts, as people talk. But the thing is, fundamentally, AI is not going anywhere. The money that can be made like surrounding AI and the type of forward progress economically AI can, I guess, facilitate, that is questionable, and that's what people are placing their bets on. What people shouldn't be placing their bets on are whether or not AI is here to stay. AI is 100% here to stay. And 20 years from now, we're going to be, I mean, God knows what we're going to be what we're going to be talking about at that point, but it's going to be unrecognized. Things are going to be unrecognizable 20 years from now compared to what we see now. So I'm not saying it'll be bad. It could be great. Like that's the upside, right? Like it's a mixed bag. We're truly in unknown and uncharted territory where we don't know exactly what the other side will look like, what the outcome will look like. But, this is one of those things where something else that people are placing their bets on is it's going to be bad or it's going to be great. There could just be an in-between. A really underwhelming, while it's unrecognizable, it's also underwhelming. We'll become slaves to the AI. Detroit become human predicted it all. Yeah. Like going from, that's the thing, dude. Right? Like if you went back to the early 90s and told people like, here's how you're going to engage with music. And here's how your kids and grandkids are going to engage with music in the year 2025. Many, many people would say, that's awful. Hell no. Like, that's crazy. Many, many people would be like, that's mind-blowingly amazing. It really just would depend on who you show it to and who you ask. But, you remember when Metallica tried to push back against LimeWire? Do you guys remember that? Or not LimeWire. LimeWire was a thing. Napster. That was the early days of seeing you saw artists in real time beginning to kind of fear what the future of music distribution looked like. And it was understandable because it's like, you're used to selling CDs and being in control of being in control of the fact that people have to pay and you get yours for that music, right? Now you look at where we are today, where it's like, how many billions of hits do you need on Spotify to make any decent money? It's completely transformed. And now it's even crazier because you're seeing AI artists, you're seeing AI songs hit charts. Like they're like topping charts sometimes. And that wasn't a person playing an instrument. That wasn't a person singing or writing lyrics. That was a person prompting. We're already, partially there. So it's just my opinion on it anyway. Oh, and Yaren, this will be a good segue. You're saying, are you going to switch from Sony to Steam Cube? Yes. Yeah, I'm abandoning PlayStation. I'm done. And I'm going to be getting the Steam Cube. I'm going to be getting the Steam machine. I'm going to be a PC player now. No, as of right now, I have zero interest in it. We need to talk about this, the Steam machine. It was fun while it lasted. We need to talk about the Steam machine. Hold on one second before I do that. I like that name, though. Steam Cube. The Gabe Cube. That's a name. The Gabe Cube. See what you did there. Yeah, Metallica was salty. Yeah, they were. But they weren't the only ones. Half-Life 3 could be right around the corner, the Game Awards. A lot of people think, a lot of people think that that's what's coming next, Half-Life 3. So Valve announced, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the Gabe Cube was being thrown around for years. I thought that was new. Valve announced multiple new pieces of hardware. The most significant, in my opinion, was the Steam machine, a single Steam machine. And I watched Digital Foundry's video, by the way. Digital Foundry was able to go hands-on with it, and they published their video, and I listened to all of their insights and their opinions on it. And this announcement from Valve is very interesting for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is the amount of different opinions it has conjured up, because I knew this was going to be announced. At least I had a strong feeling it was, because I saw the rumors and the leaks, and I'm like, yo, I think they're about to announce their console. And I remember, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm going to be really curious to see how people react to this. Because in my opinion, this is one of two things that we're looking at. It's either going to be like, holy shit, Valve just announced the next big thing, or it's going to be just like the Steam Deck, where it's going to be a big thing for a small group of, not a small, but like a smaller group of people. It's one or the other. And somebody who covers PlayStation so thoroughly, and also has been covering the situation that's been going on with Xbox for years, and we also cover Nintendo sometimes, I really, really, really am curious to know like where this thing is going to land. Because we're either looking at newfound competition, the console wars are back on, baby, or it's like it's just another option amongst many, and it will have a loyal following, a smaller following, and that'll be it. Capcom lawyers saying Valve say made the Gabe Cube for the 15% of SD players who play docked. So they openly admit that they're only targeting 800K to 1 million sales. It'll be niche at $800, 1K. So the price point, Capcom lawyer, I don't agree with that. The in terms of how many units it might sell, I'll talk about that. But the price point, after listening to Digital Foundry break down the specifications, this thing has to be at least a 512 gigabyte model, like $400. The 2 terabyte model, 5, maybe 600. But the GPU in this thing is not very good. This hardware seemingly sits between a base PS5 and an Xbox Series S, which ironically, seemingly, is what the next gen handheld from Sony is apparently going to sit at. But it does seem like Valve took some, they took some serious cost cutting measures here And yeah, 8 GB of VRAM. It seems like Valve intentionally aimed for a is aiming, I should say, for a more affordable box. And this is what makes this so interesting to me, because that's a very intentional decision. And it tells you that they want to sell this thing. How many units do they want to sell? Well, that's that's kind of where we're at odds here, because if you've been following the way Valve has been selling their hardware, and the way that they've been doing it, like direct to consumer, it's not leading to like mass adoption. It's leading to moderate to lower adoption. And the thing is, they seem totally fine with this, you know? Oh, here we go. Breaking news. Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare are coming to Netflix, iOS, Android, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch 2 on December 2nd. Um, all right. Well, we didn't have to wait long for that announcement. Coming to Netflix, bro. Take full advantage of this new hardware with support for DLSS, HDR, 60 FPS, free upgrades on PS5 and Series and Switch 2. Current owners on PS4 and Nintendo Switch with the digital backward compatible version on Xbox One will be able to upgrade digitally for free. Anyone who owns the PS4 version can utilize previous PS4 save data to pick up where they left off, and Switch 2 players can continue with their previous save data from the previous Nintendo Switch console. All right, so there you go. All right. I'm assuming no multiplayer. They didn't say anything about that. So nice of them to do the free upgrade. Yeah, I don't know why it's coming to Netflix. I mean, why not? I guess. I don't. There you go. So there you go. Red Dead 1. Getting back to the Steam Cube thing, Steam Machine. I have been soaking in so many reactions from this thing. And something that's become clear is there are many people who believe this thing is going to flop. There are just as many people who believe this thing is going to take over. And that tells me all I need to know. That tells me it's going to land probably in the middle. It's not going to flop. This is not going to be the same situation as the original Steam machines. For those who don't know, back in 2014 and 2015, Steam did try this before with Steam machines. They made their own, and then they allowed every other OEM to make their own version of Steam Machine, and it was a kind of a train wreck. Did not do well. You could buy a Steam Machine that was $3,000. You could buy one that was $300. They were all over the place. What's different about this, although they could decide to work with OEMs again if they want to, what's different about this is it's streamlined. It's simplified. It is a single cube, literally. It's a single box. And that to me is smart. I feel like if you want any chance of selling any amount of these things, you have to keep it simple. And they did that. And when you combine that with the fact that we seem to understand that they're targeting a lower price point, it's not going to be $700, $800, $900. It's just impossible. It's impossible. Like the specifications that are in that box, it cannot be that expensive. Valve have only been in hardware for 10 years. Stupid to think that they can compete with Sony. Sony even took 50 years to hit gold with PS1. They nearly went bankrupt before the Walkman. Well, yeah, I think I jumped the gun a little bit yesterday where I had this like spark of like, and I guess it was fueled by the amount of people. it was fueled by the amount of people that I saw basically, trying, like, essentially taking the stance that, yeah, this thing's going to be the next big thing. I even saw some post that went viral of people saying like PlayStation's dead, dude, and all this shit. And I'm like, well, it's hard to tell like what's being said in a just to go viral and what's actually being said earnestly, um, and seriously. And I guess I kind of like entertain this notion, and I still will because it's an interesting one. Like it's interesting to think about the idea of another console competitor just kind of coming in and throwing Sony off course. Where it's like Sony's over here thinking like, okay, we kind of took care of Xbox, um, we're good, and then suddenly, boom, enters Valve, and then it's just putting all this pressure. That would be cool. Like that would actually be very cool if that happened. But if I'm being realistic about it, like I don't think that's going to happen. If it were to happen, it would come as quite a shock. But the biggest reason I don't think this is going to happen is not because the box doesn't have the potential. It does. I think it's that Valve is not interested in doing that. I don't, especially when I was listening to the way that Digital Foundry was talking about them talking to Valve engineers and people who are working on this device. It like, they are very much just like how we say Nintendo's doing their own thing? Like Valve is the epitome of they're doing their own thing. Like they do not care. They do not care, bro. They don't care if they sell 100 of these things. They don't care if they sell 100 million. They do not care. They're literally just making it for like, hey, you guys like the Steam Deck? Cool. We'll throw you this too, in case you want it. And I've talked for a while about like Microsoft and how they are adopting that mentality. And the reason why it's so shocking to see Microsoft adopt that mentality is because Microsoft has had the opposite mentality for decades. Microsoft has cared very deeply, very intensely. And Valve, I think you can honestly say with Valve that they've never really cared. And not in a bad way. I mean, like, that's what people love about them is that they're not chasing something. They're just like, we'll just do it. Whatever, And I think that seems to be, at least based off of my observations, that seems to be the disconnect that I see with some people, where I think some people are projecting what they want. Some people, I believe, are projecting like they want to see Valve, and I was projecting this a little bit yesterday too. They want to see Valve come out and be a shark. Like Sony, we're coming for you. Get ready, buckle up. We're taking the PlayStation down. We're taking the Switch down. We're going to be the new king. And like that's not even remotely what they're doing. And it's funny because in the eyes of a lot of gamers, like Valve is king, right? In their own way. And I think it's an interesting device. And I think it's definitely something that a lot of people clearly have interest in. But whether or not it will become this big mass market, widely adopted device, I'm not sold on that yet. I think once the price comes out, maybe, and seeing people's reactions to that, it'll make it clear. And Capcom lawyer is saying 100%, $800 plus. It's a PC, not limited to just gaming. Well, yeah, they said it's going to come with SteamOS installed, but they did make it clear that if you want to install any other, if you want to install any other OS, you can do that too. So it is still a PC, yes. I'm telling you though, man, I definitely am not in agreement with that $800 plus. That, I mean, dude, that's so when it comes to PlayStation, like, should PlayStation be worried about the Steam box, the Steam machine? No, I don't think so. Should they pay attention to it? Yeah, absolutely. Sony should definitely be looking at what Valve's doing and keeping tabs on it and seeing, like, don't underestimate them is what I'm trying to say. Like, don't assume, if I were Sony, I would not just assume that this thing is not going to, I'd be like, look, listen, I don't think it's going to really have any impact on what we're doing here with PlayStation and the PlayStation console business, but it's still another It's another piece of hardware that's trying to convince people to put it in their living room. That's exactly what the PS5's purpose is. So, just keep tabs on it, right? Um, I think the company that people think are concerned about this is Microsoft. And I've seen so much of that. Bro, I had somebody on Twitter yesterday calling me a console warrior fanboy, which is fine. I'm used to that. But the context is what shocked me. I put out a post where I was asking, I said, do we think that the Steam machine from Valve can be an actual genuine competitor to the PS5? And I said, as Xbox begins to recede, Valve enters. And this person seemingly got so upset that I used the term Xbox begins to recede, or as Xbox recedes, that they're like, you're a console warrior. You brought Xbox into this. It's like, dude, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm literally pointing out the fact that Xbox is like, they're like, we're chill now. We're taking a step back in the console space. And as that literally at that exact moment, that's when Valve says, here's our Steam machine. And it's interesting to me because you can tell, like, some people have accused me of like, you want to keep the console war going. And I'm like, that's funny, dude. That's funny. Red Dead Redemption is coming to PS Plus. Oh shit. That's pretty cool. That's nice. For PS5, I'm assuming. But I think it's just funny because it's like, dude, like, in my opinion, the console war has been over. I do want to see competition, but I've accepted that competition is going to look different, going forward. Competition is not going to look the way it looked 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's not going to look the same. Oh, really? It's PlayStation Plus Essential. Damn, okay. That's good shit. But how would a PC be competition to PlayStation? Should Nintendo and the records they break in hardware sales, shouldn't that be competition and not niche hardware? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Capcom lawyer. Like, Nintendo is reaching that mass market at a very rapid rate. Like, the Nintendo Switch outsold the PS4, That is something that Sony's probably more not concerned with, but preoccupied with, or more focused on, where like that would probably get their attention faster than a device that, it's like, is this thing going to sell 10 million? I mean, it could. Yeah, I think it could. If it does, how much further is it going to go than 10 million? What if it hits 30 million? Well, look at the way Sony treats the Xbox console. Sony literally put Helldivers on Xbox, the console that was supposed to compete with them. How many units did Xbox sell? Xbox sold 28, 29 million. So with that in mind, this Steam hardware, the Steam machine, could sell upwards of 30 million units, and Sony still would not see that as competition. So that's kind of the realization I had yesterday, where it's like, wait a second, how could this Steam box be seen as competition to Sony if there's a literal Xbox home console that has 30 million sales and Sony doesn't even see that as competition? Unless there's like a behind the scenes situation where Microsoft talked to Sony and they're like, you don't have to worry, like, we're kind of done. Unless that conversation occurred, it would indicate that Sony does not see. I would have to assume a console would have to get within reach in order for Sony to be worried about it being competition. And that is a great argument as to why Nintendo would be considered more competition than Sony, because Nintendo is breaking records with their hardware sales, like literally right now. That is something that Sony would more likely pay attention to because that's the business that Sony's involved heavily in. That is the PlayStation business. It's a hardware-based business. It's more than just hardware, but that's at the heart of it right now, and it's at the center of it, and it always has been. If that's going to change, it's not going to be overnight. And so I want to kind of shift gears here for a moment. And like when people, because the thing I saw more than anything yesterday, more than anything, and I was like really thinking about this. I saw a bombardment of, if like now Xbox is dead, right? Like this Steam box, the Steam machine is what is actually going to kill Xbox's hardware and their next hardware. Because what Steam is doing is exactly what Microsoft was planning on doing with Xbox Magnus like almost 2 years from now. But they're coming out now and doing it. I disagree with this fundamentally. And the reason I'm saying fundamentally is because there's a fundamental misunderstanding in the industry right now. There are many, many people, and granted, I know a lot of this is Twitter, but there's also a level of it on YouTube I see, I kind of see it everywhere to a degree. It's just more prevalent on Twitter. But there's a this is how I know, like, people are fundamentally not understanding what's going on with Microsoft. And I get it. For a lot of people, it's going to take time. And they're going to have to see certain things happen in order for them to understand. And I'll explain what I mean. We have Raven X0 saying, I tell you what, the Steam machine is way more compelling than Xbox because Windows is shit, LOL. What do you think of the mini touchpads on the controller? I don't know what to think of them, dude. Like, my instinctive reaction is, what the hell is that? Like, my instinctive reaction is somebody who's only ever used analog sticks and I've never engaged with a controller at all for something like that. I look at it, I'm like, honestly, it looks extremely uncomfortable. But I would imagine it probably feels good to use. It's one of those things where it looks uncomfortable, but if you get it in your hands and you try it, they're great. You have them with the Steam Deck. Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to try it at some point. Hold on. Who is this person? Taylor. Every now and again, I get these people in my chat where it's like, who are you talking to, man? Like, I don't know if you're talking to me or my chat or somebody specific in my chat. Like, I don't understand. You're just saying things. Yeah, like, he's like, you are clowns. No exclusivity, you dinosaur. I'm just trying to figure out who this is and why they're here. Titus is like, bro, I didn't even notice him. Hold on one sec, guys. It's a fly making noise. Well, Taylor's saying not you. Well, all right. That's fair enough, I guess. I just sometimes I just catch these random chats and I just find myself getting confused and thrown off. Anyway, here's what I mean. So I've seen, again, when it comes to the Steam machine announcement, the thing I've seen more than anything are Steam players very excited. And secondly, people talk about how that is the death of Xbox. Like, now Xbox is truly dead. And the reason why I disagree with this is because I want to do my best right now to explain the fundamental misunderstanding. That at this point, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think as many people misunderstand as they make it seem. I think some people just need an excuse to keep a certain conversation going. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But it can be a bit toxic at times depending on which direction you're going in. So the fundamental misunderstanding that I'm going to explain to you, it is simple. When people talk about and think about the next console or the next piece of hardware from Microsoft, And again, it's understandable because this is what Microsoft has conditioned us to think. They think that Microsoft cares how many units they sell. And again, that's rooted in Microsoft cared how many units every Xbox console has sold until now. They also, some of them still fundamentally don't understand what this device is going to be. This device is going to be a very premium, expensive PC with a console wrapper. It is literally what you're looking at with the Steam machine, except much more expensive. And that pretty much is it. People don't understand that Microsoft is not worried about winning or losing because they're not fighting that battle anymore. There are too many people who, again, either don't understand or refuse to accept that when people use the term Xbox is dead, they're not. Are some people using it the wrong way? Yes. Generally speaking, when people throw that term around, what they're really trying to say, it's like, it reminds me when people used to throw the term around Xbox has no games. Does Xbox literally have no games? No. What are people really saying? They're saying they need better games. They need more games. They need better games. That's what they're saying. But they're putting it under an umbrella statement that Xbox has no games. People are doing that with the Xbox is dead term, where they're creating this umbrella statement or sentence that is, people are using to paint, disingenuous pictures. When people say Xbox is dead, Xbox hardware is not literally dead, but it is diminished. It is diminished to a degree where it is now rendered inconsequential. It is diminished to a degree where now Microsoft does not care about trying to penetrate the traditional console market in any meaningful way. It is diminished to a point where they have now accepted we should just make a Windows box and try to bring over as many Xbox players as we can next gen. None of this is bad per se. It depends on your view of it. I'm not going to say it's inherently bad. It's just the nature of Microsoft has accepted that they cannot compete with the PlayStation 5 console or the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Therefore, they're not going to try. In fact, it's the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. What has Microsoft done? Microsoft has joined PlayStation. They have embraced PlayStation. They have said, you know what? We're going to do the unthinkable and put Halo on PlayStation. Because they couldn't beat them, so they joined them. And, what does this mean for the Xbox players who are still playing on Xbox, that don't want to leave, that have a library of games, that have a ton of achievements, that maybe just like the controller better? They just like the Xbox experience. What does that mean? It means Microsoft's going to give you a bridge. You're going to have to pay to cross it, but they're going to put it there. And you're going, if you're that Xbox player, to be fine, because you're going to get a very powerful piece of hardware. You're going to pay a pretty penny for it. You're going to be able to bring all your games with you, and you're also going to have Windows available to you. That's it. And at that point, the only question that needs to be answered, it's not, is this good, is this bad? Because it doesn't matter. Like, it is what it is. The only question that needs to be asked and answered is, okay, well, how many people is that going to be? How many people are going to cross that bridge? Well, we just have to use simple logic here, common sense. If 28 million people bought a Series S and Series X, okay, now cut that in half, because we learned that half of these series console sales are Series S's. So then about 13 to 13.5 million people bought the Series S. You can cut those people out immediately. Somebody who decided, I'm going to buy this Xbox Series S because it's $300 is not going to buy a $1,200 box. So you can take half of the install base that is currently there for the series consoles and just immediately erase that, because they're not crossing that bridge. So then you have about 13 more million left. You can then cut away another chunk because there is a massive difference between I paid $500 for this Series X, I paid $600 for this Series X, and now I'm expected to pay $1,000 or $1,200 or more. I don't know how large that cutaway is going to be. That could be 1 million more players. That could be 5 million more players. That's the difficult part to really gauge. But one thing that should be understood is that it's probably going to settle. Like, the one thing that should be understood is that this next Xbox device will struggle to reach 10 million players. And if it does reach 10 million players, it's going to do so over its lifetime. And Microsoft is perfectly fine with that because that's exactly what they're anticipating. And they are not stupid. They know that's what's going to happen. So now when we look at the Steam box, the Steam machine, this also, what I will say is that it's not necessarily direct competition. This isn't Valve going after Microsoft. It's just that for the people who are going to make the decision that I'm going to go to PC, for those people, the Steam box is going to be a viable option. And those people that I'm referring to are console players inherently. Most of them will probably be Xbox players. A portion of them, a small portion, may be PlayStation players. The PC community is shook. The 8 gigabytes of VRAM has splintered the nerd factions. I've been hearing a lot about that 8 gigabytes of VRAM. That was the most shocking thing that I heard from Digital Foundry, by the way, when I was watching the breakdown of this device from Digital Foundry, and they were basically saying like they were saying that this Steam machine might struggle to run certain games, like certain like games that really are kind of demanding. And I'm like, and they're talking about how like some games, you know, may even struggle at 1080p. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, you know, Valve seems like they know what they're doing. Hold on one sec, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to get Boss out of here. He's being... All right. I don't know. He's just weird anymore. I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, I'm not looking too deeply into the specifications of this Steam machine, only because it's like I'm not like it's not really any of my concern. If Digital Foundry is telling me it lies somewhere between a Series S and a PS5, then I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to do for most games. You know, that's all I really need to be told. And I think it'll be fine for most games. Do I think that some of the PC players with low to mid specs won't adopt the Xbox PC? No, I think most PC players are not going to adopt the Xbox PC or the Xbox Magnus because, like, another fundamental misunderstanding that people have is that people are now more than ever before, they are entrenched. MBG, bro, you need to see the Valve interview. This is only made for the Steam Deck users who want it. Why do you think they keep saying 6 times the power of the Steam Deck? Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true. I did find that kind of strange. I'm like, why would you say it like that? You know? I think you're right. Yeah, I think I got a little bit caught up in the hype yesterday, but once I was kind of removed from it, I just was like, I think there's, like I said, a lot of people who bought the Steam Deck, if not everybody who's bought the Steam Deck, seem to be very happy with it. And I think a lot of people are going to buy this device and be very happy with it. And that it's almost like existing in the same exact spot that I believe that the next Xbox is going to exist, where it's like I think people are going to be very happy with it. The people who want it, like you're going to know you want it. It's not trying to outdo anything or be better than this or be more convincing than that. It's just we're going to try to offer something that if you pay for it and you're enthusiastic about it, you'll probably be happy with it. Do I think no? Absolutely not. That's a great question. Do I think PlayStation is going to stop with the Steam ports? Absolutely not. No, I was really pondering this as well, and this is another. Again, I think there's just so. I think if not misunderstandings, I keep using the term misunderstandings. I think that's a more polite way to put it. I think there's just a lot of denial still. There's a lot of people that I think they just still, if I'm going to say it a little bit more rudely, they just don't get it. You know? I need everybody to understand that Sony was asked about Helldivers 2 on Xbox. And you know what they said? They said it did very well. And it gave them a significant boost in sales. And it was a success. That's what they said. That's what they said about putting their own first-party published game on Xbox. Not Steam, not PC, on another console that has been known to, that was viewed as the main competitor to PlayStation. That's not me saying now assume Spider-Man's next. That's just me telling you what Sony's saying. What should we infer from that? Well, that's the question everybody's going to be focused on. What should be inferred from that is if you think, and I do feel confident in saying this now because I was kind of wishy-washy on this as well for the past month and a half because I've been kind of listening to some of the things Sony's been saying, but the data doesn't lie. And not only does the data not lie, even just look at what Sony just announced. Did you guys pay attention to this monitor that Sony just announced? It's a PlayStation monitor. It's like, okay, well, here's what's interesting. It's not under Sony's PC branding. Sony has a PC brand called InZone. And every monitor that they've released, I think they've released like 4 so far. Every monitor they've released have been released under the InZone branding. And Sony's made it clear, like, that's the separating factor. This is our PC branding. They say, they'll say you can use it with PS5, of course. But InZone, PC-oriented gaming branding. This is the first time they're announcing a PlayStation monitor. And here's what's most interesting about it. When I looked at the specs of this monitor, I'm like, this doesn't make no sense. This doesn't make any sense to me. Sony's like, here's the first ever PlayStation monitor. You got PlayStation logos all over it. The charger's pretty cool. Yeah. No, they're like, it's not 4K. And I'm like, so it's QHD. It's 1440p. Not uncommon in the PC space. That's for a PC player. The consoles do 4K. A PS5 does 4K, and most games usually target some kind of 4K. A lot of games are under that, but that's an intentional decision where it's like, so you're foregoing a 4K screen. Okay. The second thing, and this is the biggest one to me, 240 hertz. Bro, the PS5 is not capable of 240 hertz. It's one thing if you want to lock it at 1440p, but 240 hertz? Exactly. It's that's a play for PC, bro. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Sony's out here, PlayStation monitor, Pulse Elevate PC speakers. Now you can use them for anything, but they're like, it's for your desktop. At the same time, we're hearing that Sony may be gearing up to announce and put out a PlayStation storefront on a PlayStation launcher on PC. I think it's obvious. Like, it's been obvious, but I think, I think we can safely say without any hesitation, without any confusion, that like Sony is going in this direction, guys. And I'm not here to say you should like it or that was a motorcycle outside, bro. I just farted real loud. I was hoping it wouldn't come through the mic. I have no idea what that sounded like on the other end. PlayStation is going in that direction. And that's not me. I'm not like trying to crush, PlayStation fans that like a traditional way of doing things. I'm just saying, like, I'll put it to you this way. If the reason, did it sound diabolical? Yeah, I don't know. It sounded pretty loud out there. I'm like, I don't know if that came through the mic. It's for PlayStation fans who moved or already play on PC. Only a Sony fan would buy that monitor or speaker when there's way better on the market. The speakers seem like they could be good. It depends on the price. The monitor, yeah, I'm like, dude, the monitor's weird. I don't understand it because, like, dude, I'm pretty sure the monitor that they put out a year or two ago is better than that one. Speakers will be $300. Yeah, that's gonna be pricey. That's great. Yeah, that's a lot. They seem like they're gonna be high quality, but well, what I was trying to say is that here's what I'll say to PlayStation fans and PlayStation players. There's somebody out. Sorry, I opened my window because it's getting a little hot in here. And there's just all these weird sounds suddenly. Got loud ass motorcycles that sound, people think it's me farting. Now I'm just hearing voices out there. Luna's looking like she's going to jump out the window. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let me get to the point. I think Sony has been telegraphing something. They're not all the way there yet. We're not at the end stage, but they've been telegraphing it and they've been signaling. And what they've been telegraphing is, I think, simply this. If your only reason for deciding to invest into PlayStation is because you were forced to do so through exclusivity, our grip with that, like, that's going to become weaker and weaker and weaker year over year. What the? It's fucking literally people right outside my fucking window, bro. And I am like confused. Yeah, I'm no, dude. I had to go look. I'm like, now they're not like, there's a road next to me here, so they're on like the sidewalk. But I'm like, why are you there? You could be anywhere. Why are you right there in front of my fucking window? Anyway, back to what I'm trying to say. Sony, I think, is just making it very clear. That's who it is, Game of Thrones. I mean, the timing, though, a little suspicious. That timing. And I think, like, I think Sony is just getting to that point where they're going to launch the PC launcher. And when that happens, that is, I would say, the end game. And the reason why I say that's the end game is because think about it. Like, the moment Sony announces that, even though it will be through their own launcher, you're going to see the headlines, PlayStation goes day and date. And this is something where people are going to go crazy. What are the fanboys going to do? Sony's about to come out and be like, oh yeah, we're going to go day and date on PC, brother. They're going to fucking come out and just basically body slam PlayStation fanboys through a fucking table. and everybody's going to be watching. All right, maybe that's a bit. This is a bit much. It's not going to be. I don't know. Will it be that intense? Macho Man, Sony Savage. I don't know. Did you see that Jez guy claiming Day and Date is coming? Since you're talking about PC, I saw that briefly on the Gaming Leaks Rumor subreddit, but I mean, I don't. I guess maybe I don't. I didn't look into it. Like, I don't know if he's saying that. I don't know if he's saying that like his sources told him. I mean, I think the reason why people are going to be hesitant to believe Jez Corden saying that is because he's the person who infamously, I should say, put out the tweet like, Xbox isn't putting their games on PlayStation. That's just hopium from fanboys. And then literally that happened. So I think people are going to, they're going to be less inclined to just be like, oh, yeah, you're right, Bro. Dude, I swear to God, that's the first time I'm seeing that post, Irfan, the one you just sent. I'm like, that's literally what I just described. He said Day and Date is coming. Well, hold on. Jez says the whole exclusives argument looks silly now. Steam is launching a console with both Xbox and PlayStation titles. Somebody says, respectfully, no. Sony still stands by exclusives and it works for them. What game have they released Day and Date on PC? Nintendo's model is exclusives. Plus, there's a ton of games that don't support Linux because anti-cheat. If anything, Steam has eaten Xbox's launch. And then Jez said Day and Date is coming. Well, here's the thing. I think PlayStation fans need to look at Sony in isolation. They do. Because I think the problem with, I think, most of these, if not all of these conversations, is we're always bringing other gaming companies and other gaming platforms into the conversation. And I understand that that's kind of like what I just said is a bit of an oxymoron, because it's like, well, hold on. If we're talking about Sony going more places, then naturally those platforms need to play a role in the conversation. I agree, but I'm talking about like the reason why we have to kind of remove those platforms when we're trying to figure out or decide like what is Sony doing here? What is the play? I think that's necessary because when you look at Sony in isolation and you just purely focus on what they're doing, what they've done and what they're doing and the way they're speaking, I can tell you honestly, for me, I walk away with the message that, listen, we're just going to continue to do exclusivity for as long as we feel we need to. And the moment we feel like we don't need to, we're not going to. But that exclusivity is going to transform. And that transformation is not, I don't think, going to come in the way that people think. People think that transformation is going to be the same way it happened with Microsoft. And I know I said not to bring others into it, but just for an example, because it's the first one that people are going to point to, is Sony's going to take God of War and then put it on Xbox and Switch. No, I don't think that's where they're headed, at least not anytime soon. I think it's going to be much more subtle. It's going to be impactful, but it's going to be subtly impactful, right? Where they're going to announce their PC launcher. And when that happens, the impact will be felt because you're going to see everybody being like, holy shit, they're Day and Date. On the other side of it, you're going to see the fact that, well, going forward, games like Wolverine and, Intergalactic are going to launch day one on PC through their launcher and then later go to Steam. Right? That is a major transformation. And that is Sony telling you, you don't need a PS5. Sony just told you with the PS Portal, you don't need a PS5. Sony, with a PC launcher, will also be telling you don't need a PS5. But do you think Sony's going to tell you that? Like, do you think Sony's literally going to tell you, do you think Sony's going to adopt Microsoft's marketing and say, that's a PlayStation, that's a PlayStation? Absolutely not. Sony's going to look you dead ass in the face and say, oh, you need a PS5. And you could look back at them and say, I don't. You just announced a PC launcher. You just told me I could play PS5 games through your portal. Sony will still look at you and say, no, you need a PS5, brother. Like, you need it. Because that's what they're going to do. Like, that's what they want you to do. And they're going to tell you need to do it. They understand not everybody's going to listen. So they're just putting those options there where it's like, They're not going to acknowledge you, bro. Like, you're going to sit there and say, I don't, people are, look at the way they approach Steam. Like, people say, I don't need a PlayStation. I can just wait for these games on Steam. Did Sony turn to those people and say, you're totally right. Just keep waiting. We'll bring more over? No. Is that what they did? Yes. You see, do you see what I'm saying? Like, if you just pay attention to what Sony has done and what they're doing now, they've already told you. Essentially, their actions have told you. Now, granted, they've also spoke about this at certain business meetings and at certain earnings calls, but they've always been very vague about it. And this is why they've been vague, because they want the best of all worlds. And as long as you understand that, it becomes super easy to understand the wider play, you know? The wider play is, yes, we want to sell the most amount of consoles, and yes, we want everybody and their mother to buy one. Yes, we know not everybody's going to buy one, so we want to give you an opportunity to still give us money. And that's the major difference fundamentally from everybody else, and why you kind of need to look at Sony in isolation, because it's like, compare that to Nintendo. What does Nintendo do? Nintendo says, fuck you, you're buying our hardware. Like, we're going to tell you you need to buy our hardware, and we mean it. We ain't playing. Oh, you want that, Mario? Oh, you want Mario, huh? You know, I mean, that's how Nintendo rolled. Like, Sony's not doing that. Sony's not looking you dead in the face saying, you want Wolverine? You buy a PS5. Well, they are. But they're trying not to break character. But you can sense they're breaking. It's like, what do you sure about that? Like, are you sure I need a PS5 for Wolverine? Or like, we're sure. We are sure you need it. But in reality, it's like, we're all sitting here. It's like, Sony, we know Wolverine's going to come to PC. Like, we know it's coming. Sony won't break, though, man. They will not break character. They'll just do it. Nintendo, when they tell you you need a Nintendo Switch to play their games, it's not a character. That's not an act. They're dead ass serious. Microsoft is on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, where Microsoft is like, we don't care. Like, your fucking shares in Xbox, bro, okay? I don't care. Just buy our game. and that's where we are with all of this. That's where we are with all of this. And Nintendo, just to talk about them for another moment, Nintendo doesn't want the best of all worlds. Nintendo wants the best of their world. They want control of their hardware, of their ecosystem, of their games, period, end of discussion, no ifs, ands, or buts, period. Sony used to be that way and decided we want more than that. We want to think bigger than that, but we still want to maintain some semblance of control. So that's what we'll do. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly why a PC PlayStation launcher seems like it's right around the corner, because that's Sony's way of saying, you know, we're not going to not put games on PC. We're just going to do it differently now. And I know that this is this entire conversation was sparked by somebody just simply asking, like, do I think they're going to take their games off of Steam now? And it's like, absolutely not, dude. Like, I'm not saying their games did. I don't think Sony cares that their games didn't do that great. The more I think about it, where I'm like, bro, think about what they just said about Helldivers on Xbox. That game didn't like light up the world over there, but Sony said it was a success. So it means that if it sold 600K, if it sold 900K, if it sold 1 million, they see that as a success. They're like, that's good. We'll take that. What do you think that means for all their PC launches? You know, if Spider-Man 2 sold an extra million, an extra 1.5 million, it tells me, like, see, this is what I'm saying. If you kind of pay really close attention to what they're saying and what they're doing, I feel like the answers are there. You just have to look hard enough. And, you know, I just, after seeing this Steam machine reveal, it's become, and I put out this video yesterday too, and I guess I'm having a kind of like complete pivot from, oh, I don't know about that, Shems. I'm having a complete pivot because I realized that like that notion of the Steam machine is basically going to be the competition to PlayStation that Xbox was supposed to is nonsensical. Like it genuinely is. And anybody who believes that is quite literally living in La La Land. Because it's like, dude, Steam is great and people love Steam. People love Valve because of what they do with Steam. Anybody who's on Steam is there on PC right now. And believe me when I tell you, they are perfectly happy where they are. And Valve knows that. And that's what's so funny about all of this is that it's like you can feel Xbox's fall, dude. Like you can. Not fall. They're bowing out. They didn't because they're fine financially mostly. But you can feel you can feel that empty space. You know what I mean? Where it's like people they expect that. And maybe some people want it. And I see it more and more where it's like it's not even console war. It's just people expect that high, intense level of competition because it's always been there in this space in gaming. And now it's just not. And people are trying to really, I think, grapple with what that means in terms of how you discuss these things and interpret these reveals and these announcements. Shadowlink, you're saying, MBG, wouldn't it make sense that their success metric would be based on making X amount more than what was spent on dev costs? Yeah. You would think so. My understanding is it doesn't cost Sony pretty much anything to port these games to PC. And the reason it doesn't really, I mean, it costs them something. You know, I don't say anything, but they bought the studio to do the work. Now, the most expensive part is keeping that studio up and running. And that, I guess you could say, is the investment, which is why that studio, Nixxes, has been basically a PC powerhouse where, like, they're just pumping out ports, dude. And I guess the idea is it would be, you know, how much money are we paying, you know, yearly, every fiscal year? How much does it cost to keep Nixxes running versus how many, you know, stack that up against how many ports they release on PC and how much each PC port makes. And, you know, just subtract how much it costs to keep Nixxes running and how much you may have spent on marketing, and then there's your answer. And I don't think that's a really high number. Like I said, 2%. That's only 2%. But I'm beginning to realize that 2% has not had a negative impact on PlayStation's bottom line. It's only had a positive impact. And that's really, I think, all that matters to them, ultimately. GTA meets Animal Crossing. Yeah, what are you talking about? So if I go over to my Twitter, okay. So if I go over on Twitter and I go to my post, I see Magnus is trending. Hold on, let me see why. Is it for something else? Reforged Gaming, he has a post that went viral. Says, I don't think the Steam machine is a threat to Xbox Magnus because its weaker hardware has no Xbox backwards compatibility, is a different target audience. And now I see people comparing spreadsheets of the Steam machine versus Xbox Magnus. It's going to, yeah, I don't know. It's going to take people a little bit, I think. It's going to take them a little bit to understand that Magnus is not Xbox is done competing, man, and Valve has never been competing in the hardware space. So once those two things click for people, and they'll click. Once those two things click, the conversation kind of, we have answers. Anyway, I put this question out. I said, and do we think this could end up being a genuine competitor to the PS5? It's such an interesting timing. As Xbox begins to recede in the console space, Valve enters. And looking over some of the replies here, I mean, they are fucking all over the place, dude. It's impossible to keep up. There's so many replies. I will say, the reply that got the most amount of likes was Reese Kiwi Talks. Riley says, no, as long as these aren't sold at retailers, all Valve/Steam products will be niche devices. Most people outside of the gaming sphere have no idea what Valve/Steam is. Sony has nothing to worry about. And, it's interesting because I've seen people point out, like, well, if you were to buy the Steam machine, you get free multiplayer. And I'm like, that already exists right now. That's existed this whole time. Literally nothing has stopped any console player at any time to go buy a $400 or $500, $600 PC, use it for gaming, and not pay for multiplayer. And you could hook it up to your TV. Nothing has stopped you from hooking it up to your TV and using a controller. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Granted, I think SteamOS will create a much greater simplification. And for some very few people, that may be the difference maker. But I just think that people, I just think we don't really know what to do right now. Linus Tech Tips also pointed out why it'll be a high price for SM. A company could order 10K of them and only use them for work, never buying a game, so Valve can't risk losing cost on them. I'll tell you what, this thing's more expensive than like $500 or $600. Like, at that point, I will genuinely question, like, well, I guess I wouldn't question why I would not question why it exists, but I would, to be honest, I wouldn't question anything. At that point, I would be like, okay, yeah, this is going to do a very low volume. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just think the conversation is inherently more interesting when people assume it's going to be $400 or $500, because it's like, oh, like that's like a normal console price point these days. So it does make the conversation more interesting, and it makes people more interested, generally speaking, because it's a cheaper, more entry-level price point. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. With the Steam Deck. 6 times more powerful, 6 times more expensive. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a funny day. If what you're saying ends up being true, that's going to be a funny day, dude, when it's like, and revealing the price of the Steam machine, it's $700, $800. Like, it's like, oh, alrighty. Well, again, people will still buy it for those who want it, but it's like, a lot of people just like kind of walk away. 450 bet on it? That's true. Yeah, I thought about that too. I was like, why didn't they reveal a price? I'll tell you why. Because they're like, we got to reveal Half-Life 3 first. Bro, you really need to watch Moore's Law's Dead video on Steam Machine. They got a massive deal on hardware by buying in bulk. That's what Microsoft was supposed to do, or that Microsoft was supposed to use. The Steam Machine will be a loss leader. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. The idea of Valve positioning a piece of hardware to be a loss leader. That would be fascinating. I would like to see that, because I'd be so curious to see what that would lead to. Because if they were the only, well, how do they subsidize the cost though? Like, well, I guess, yeah, they subsidize it because it's just Steam. But they don't really have many other avenues. They don't have the benefit of like, well, we have a subscription service, right? I don't think they do have anything like that. Again, you're not. People aren't paying for online play. People can download other storefronts if they want. They can. This introduces high latency memory fetches, resulting in frame time spikes and irregular render pacing. Half-Life 3 running on Steam Machine will be the worst way to play a 2025-2026 game. Unless they do some sort of in-house magic. Dude, that'd be crazy. Half-Life 3, exclusive to the Steam Machine. It's, we coded to the metal on this one. Dude, that would be nuts. That'd be so fascinating. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's like a pipe dream. But the idea of Valve basically doing what Sony, Nintendo, and for a couple decades Microsoft is like what they were doing. To a lot of people, it would feel so regressive. It's like, wait, you guys were supposed to be the antithesis of that. So, more competition entering into the console market is a good thing. I agree with that. I'm now more than ever, I am convinced that everybody is in their own lane. I really feel that way, man. And I think, as crazy as it sounds, I think there was like some level of truth to what Phil Spencer said not that long ago, where he was saying something like, you're going to see more and more people doing this. Like, it's like he knows something we don't. I know a lot of people hate Phil, but it's like, maybe that's true to a degree. Like, you do wonder I do wonder if there's conversations between Sony and Microsoft behind the scenes, because I find it very interesting that Phil was like, I think Helldivers is a game that should be on Xbox. And then we're like, yeah, okay, Phil, sure, you would think that. Meanwhile, Sony's like, yes. Like, whoa, hold on. Sony, what do you mean, yes? Like, that's different. So Phil telegraphed that, bro. And I'm like, I'm not a Phil defender. I'm just saying, it's like, yeah, we talked about that, Petrov. Yeah, he said that too, Wes. If Halo goes to PlayStation. Wait, he didn't say it like that, did he? I don't think he said if Halo goes to PlayStation, we've lost our way. I think he said like if Halo fails, or if we lose our way with Halo, we lose our way with Xbox or some shit. Oh no, I didn't see that in Patra. That makes sense though. That makes sense for the MMORPG. Valve developer on the hardware release. One less secret I have to worry about. Damn. Phil didn't telegraph. He port begged. Well, if Conquer goes to PlayStation, we all lose. I guess I'm just saying, like, now more than ever, I do believe that, yeah, I think the walls are gone, man. I do. Like, I think everybody has. I'm not saying it'll stay this way permanently, but I just think for now and maybe for a good while, these companies, they've all seemingly decided on their own lane. Nintendo, we already know what their lane is. Their lane is, we're just going to keep it the most traditional. We're going to have one piece of hardware. We're going to make exclusives for that hardware. We're going to get some third-party support. And we're going to basically force you, if you have any interest in anything we're doing, to come to us, period. We're not coming to you. Then you have Microsoft, where they're doing the opposite, where they're now saying, we did that for like the past 2 decades. Now we're going to do the opposite of that. We're going to come to you. Everything's an Xbox. We're publisher first. And then in the middle, you have Sony, where they're like, I think Sony is in a singular lane, but they want to believe they're in multiple lanes. That's what I think is kind of funny. That's why I think what they're doing in the mobile space is kind of funny. Because it's like, I think Sony's singular lane is, you're the king of console, high end. You're the king of mid to high end console, and you're the king of third party in the console space. And you have some good first party games. You have some good studios. You have a good thing going with PS Plus. Um, I think that they're just kind of doing their thing, but they have this great ambition where they're like, well, we can kind of be multi-platform too, and we can be live service too, and we can do mobile gaming too, and we can make movies. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're doing all those things, but where's your bread and butter still lie? Your bread and butter still lies in the fact that you're like GTA 6, bro. Like that's your bread and butter because of PS5, you know? Um, games like Ghost of Yotei to a degree, maybe not as much of your bread and butter, but it's your studio, your game on your console. You can put it somewhere else if you want, but it's just I do find the lane that Sony finds themselves in peculiar because it's more unpredictable. You can predict what Nintendo's going to do. You can definitely predict what Microsoft's going to do. You can predict what Sony's going to do. You can't predict the timing. The timing's all off. Yeah. Um all right, let me close some of this stuff out here. I got way too many things open. Hold on. All right. Um PlayStation movies are not making the same money as Mario movies. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's going to be a possibility, that's I don't know, maybe if one day Sony wants to make an Astrobot movie or something. Um see Shems was heading out. All right. Yeah, I see it says Valve developer, one less secret I have to worry about. Excited to get this out into the world. Valve, or sorry, Mike Strahl, senior editor of Insider Gaming, says Valve isn't done with the big announcements. Shit, I mean, geez, man, like, I mean, come on, like, it's gonna happen. Like, it's definitely happening, right? Like, they have to be getting ready to announce Half-Life 3. And I don't know, I feel weird about that only because like I'm not into Half-Life, but I know how big of a deal it is. No, I don't think it's Half-Life Alex 2. That'd be so funny, dude. The live action Zelda movie started shooting last week in New Zealand. Yeah, isn't that being published by Sony Pictures? Right? I think it's being published by Sony Pictures. Can you imagine a 4-player Astrobot game where each character is the color of the face buttons? That's interesting idea. Gabe definitely believes in threes. Half-Life 3 and Portal 3 confirmed. Yo, what if it's Left 4 Dead 3? Yo, if they made Left 4 Dead 3 and it was exclusive to their Steam machine, I would buy that Steam machine day one. No joke. I mean, they wouldn't do that, but you're a big Half-Life fan, but even I know it's big, but only to the PC space. Yeah, like I saw there was that rumor, I think I covered it on my last stream, where like Special Nick said that he was just DM'd something that Valve, or that's going to be, he didn't say Valve. He was DM'd something that's going to be announced next week that actually, if true, like may actually steal GTA 6's hype and eclipse it. And I was really thinking about that. I'm like, I don't think Half-Life 3 could do that. Like I'm not like, I think Half-Life 3 would be very close to it, but I don't think it could do that. I think it would break the internet for like a couple days maybe. But yeah, dude, and that's not me taking any shots at Half-Life. I just think Yeah, again, I don't mean to sound like such a GTA glazer, but it's just I've never seen anything like GTA 6. To be fair though, I don't think anything else out there could match Half-Life 3. I mean, like even something like Bloodborne, I don't think so. Half-Life 3, I think I'll put it like this. Like if Half-Life 3 is sitting here as its own like nothing else can touch it, I think GTA 6 is kind of like here above it. Um Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. That'd be interesting though. I'm very curious. Like if Half-Life 3 does get announced, so it's gonna be really interesting to see the way people react. Because the one thing that's different about Half-Life 3 from GTA 6 is it feels impossible. That's the thing about it. Is like it's one of these things where it's like mythical. It's mythical. It's like a legend. It's like it's not real. And then it's just like, no, it's real. It's right here. And I do wonder if Half-Life 3 could end up being a kind of weird situation where it's almost like there's like that fear of it's been built up for so long, dude. It's been built up for so long and it's become such a mythical type of game that's just not real. It's fantasy. I mean, how does a game live up to that, bro? Like there were people saying that like they're not going to make Half-Life 3 because they know they'll never be able to match what people's expectations are. I don't think that'd be a good reason not to make it, but there is some truth to that where it's like, what are people's expectations? They'll only release it if they've created some sort of new tech or physics in the game that they're proud, that'll make them proud of it. Yeah, I mean, that could elevate it quite a bit, man. Really get gaming survivor. That's not toxic at all, bro. That's not toxic at all. Do we think it would release on PlayStation, Half-Life 3? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Valve. That's what Half-Life 2 did for gaming. Oh, damn. Carlos, that's crazy. It's a 100% peaceful question from you, Gaming Survivor. You sure? You sure, bro? You're just checking in on their well-being. Half-Life was on consoles before Orange Box. Yeah, I mean, the only like Valve game I ever really truly got deeply into was Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. So for me, like the biggest announcement from Valve would be Half-Life 3. Sorry, no, Left 4 Dead 3. I mean, for a lot of people, Half-Life 3 is that game. But I love Left 4 Dead, dude. And I always was really sad that they never made a third one. But yeah, people love Counter-Strike. Well, I guess we'll see, man. I will say if Half-Life 3 is announced next week, interesting to think that it's going to be before the Game Awards. Like you would think that maybe that's something that Valve would partner with Jeff Keighley for. But then again, yeah, I mean, people I think have to pay to be part of the Game Awards. So if you have a game that doesn't need to be, you don't need a show. You don't need to be part of anybody else's show. It's just that big. You know, like our game announcement will break the internet. Yeah, why would you need that to be part of a show? Why would you have to pay to make that part of a show? But guys, I think we're getting ready to wrap up here soon. What time is it? Okay, yeah. So I got a late start today. Today was going to be a shorter day, but to make up for it, I put out a long ass video today. I did something a little bit different. I made like a 30-minute video, like a 25, 30-minute video. So like if you want more, it's there. Jeff started his career at Valve reporting. He loves them and would do it for free. I was thinking about that too. Like, yeah, he wouldn't ask them to pay. I don't know. Maybe they'll like tease it, you know? Maybe they'll tease it and then that's where it'll be revealed. Guess we'll see. But yeah, guys, this is going to be a good place to wrap up the stream. We will definitely be talking more about these topics, I'm sure, you know, in upcoming streams. But Yeah, I am cutting it close. Do I think one of PlayStation Studios could show off their new IP at the Game Awards? Yeah, I think Naughty Dog's going to be at the Game Awards for sure. Tarnished, I'm sorry. Yeah, Nicodemus, exact. Thank you for the recap. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's stream. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for tuning in. If you tune in live, if you're watching later on, make sure you go check out that video that I put out if you want more, just to, more news in general, PlayStation news, that is. No, that's crazy, Wes. I also want to thank everybody who dropped any support. If you dropped any memberships, direct donations, super chats, thank you so much. I can only do what I do here because you guys make it possible. So thank you so much. And also shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for the stream. If you guys see him in the comments, show him some love, give him some thanks. I know he appreciates it. Devil Shooter, thank you for what you do. And that's it, guys. So enjoy the rest of your day. We should be back here with another stream relatively soon. And that's it. So I will catch you guys. Oh, thank you, Jack. I'm glad. I'm glad you like my Herman. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, take care, everyone.